bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday. It's USL All Access. And with Devon Kerr and Emmett McConnell at the controls, Mike Watts. Happy to have you along for another week chatting all about the championship, what's going on during this international window. There's Joe Hafferty set to join us. Lexington with a win. A win. They won a game. He's going to join us. He was with Las Vegas. I felt like we said that a lot last year, and look at where they finished out. So Hafferty joins us later on in the show. Meanwhile, Devon is moving around that Final Four basketball, which is not adequate for a soccer show, but came from a soccer match.
You're judging the prop in my hand that came from our CBS game from San Antonio earlier.
It is from a soccer match.
Okay, from the top rope, from a soccer match, but from the heart, Michael.
Nothing says NBA Finals like whipping out a basketball. Devon, what a week it's been, huh?
It's been interesting. How are you? I know you're holed up in a hotel room, rocking through the Club World Cup. Jet setting for all your matches. How's any progressions in fatherhood, or are we still? you stepped away from that for a couple days.
He doesn't like to sleep, and he does like to push himself up on his side when he does sleep. And
so he's
like
you.
17 days old. Yeah, that's
he's
right.
You.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Happy Father's Day belated to everybody. Dev 3 times over. Club World Cup going on. I'm in Atlanta with HBS, who obviously, if you're unfamiliar, the pictures that come from a World Cup anywhere in the world, men's, women's, club, youth, it's a world feed. Fox, for instance, or DAZN aren't actively cutting the game. It's HBS, and so working with them's been pretty awesome. And Shaw Brown and Jim Dodonna in the truck are guys that have been around American soccer forever and are fantastic guys. A stat for all the haters out there, because I understand the money grab side of this. I really, really do. Everyone's ripping on Atlanta for the 22,000 that it drew for Chelsea and LAFC yesterday. I'm just going to toss a stat at you. We're 8 games into the Club World Cup, and we are averaging 43,000 fans per game. Stamford Bridge holds 40,400.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
yeah.
Here's the only thing I would say.
Is fine.
Here's the only thing I would say. It shouldn't
be this expensive, and LAFC getting 3 weeks to travel 2,000 miles was suboptimal.
Yeah. Now, here's the only thing that I would say.
Bring it.
And you and I both, at every league that we cover, come across situations where teams are in a venue that doesn't suit them size-wise. Could be an MLS team that's playing in an NFL stadium.
Could
the Revs.
Be Birmingham Legion.
Could be Birmingham, right? And colleges do it too. So anyway, where I'm going with this is I'm also not stupid enough to think that there were 22,000 people in that venue, Michael. I agree with you on the numbers, but there were not 22,000 people at that game. Having been there myself, having been on the ground, having been up top, I've seen it all. There were not 22,000 people there. Tickets sold, sure, but we can chase that narrative all over any sport and any location.
I'm just saying soccer's fine.
I agreed. I do get into this argument all the time, and people are like, "Oh, the stadium is only half full," and I'm like, "Piss off!" They're playing in a 70,000 seat stadium, right? I'm a Liverpool supporter. Anfield would dream to have that many people one day, right? Soccer's doing just fine.
Soccer's fine. That's the whole point of this. And we are now just 360 days away from the World Cup. So exciting times. All right, Dev. Speaking of exciting times, Lexington is back, baby. Not just a win, a win over the top team in the West. Someone was going to let them off the mat. You just never thought it would be New Mexico. It's their first win in 13. The last time they won a game, it was against Southern Indiana, which is both a place and a team. That's in the Open Cup. Nothing in the league. Luis Fernando scores in first half stoppage time. You go, ruh-roh, here we go again. Alas, Sofiane Jafal, Zenge scores in the 73rd. All of a sudden, here comes Lexington. Did they get dominated? Perhaps. But Lexington's only 4 points off the playoff line. It's all gone horribly wrong, and they're 4 points out.
Can you imagine if they were in the East?
They would be more points out.
It would be way worse. It would be way worse. They wouldn't, but I think the East would be harder for them. There's more relevance for every team in the West, we'll say. Listen, here, start with Lexington. New Mexico United, they're just fine. It happens, right? They lost their first game since leading at halftime since August 6th of last year. 16-match stretch. It shows you the domination that was under Eric Quill and has continued under Dennis Sanchez. Not worried about them whatsoever. They had chances. Saves were made. I still have concerns with Lexington on the back line. I think the addition of Xavier Zenge, which now seems to be a little bit more of a permanent thing in terms of squad selection. Joe Hafferty moving to the interior. Kendall Burks has some issues he's got to work through. To me, there are two main things you have to look at. And both players are loanees. It's the world that they're going to live in. First of all, everyone at home, his name is pronounced Michael Adedokan. Michael Adedokan. Not Adedokun, Michael Adedokan. Roll right through. It's simple.
Using the pronunciation guide from the team.
Oh, was that? Did you? I wasn't calling you out, by the way.
No, I'm just saying.
What does their pronunciation guide say?
Adedokun.
Great. You're wrong. Not you.
Right.
Not you. I'm saying Lexington. Everybody in Lexington, you're wrong. So anyway, unless he has decided to change his name from all of the conversations that I had with him last year,
I doubt it.
Which happens. But when a player looks at me and says, this is my name, and I say, will you slow it down? Will you say it for me? I'm only saying it for announcers, not because it's bad, but I want it to be better. Getting him minutes, getting him comfortable out on the width, letting him attack, which is exactly what went on in this game, is going to only benefit you. The kid's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen at the collegiate level. I have a hard time believing that that's not going to follow him into pro ranks. And then Mike Loney, Forster Ajago. You get him up top in the 9. He is also going to work. He is good with back to goal. Physically, he is dominant. He will destroy you in the air. And in terms of box arrivals for a 9, listen to this statement that I am about to make. It is one of the best that I have ever seen in this country. I'm not talking about college, USL, MLS. I'm saying ever. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to translate to goals. But his understanding of where and when that run needs to happen, find him. He will find goals. He's incredible. Okay? So those two players are what are going to be key here. And again, defensively shoring some things up.
And for New Mexico now, they can look down and say 1 through 5 is separated by exactly 2 points. First loss for New Mexico United, leading at half since August of last year. That stretches through 16 games. All right, Dev. Lexington is off the mat. Good news, they're going to jump some teams in the East. Not so fast. Not so fast, okay? They hang at the bottom of the overall table. You're asking how it would be if they were in the Eastern Conference. The Rowdies keep moving, okay? It's not going to be any easier. The Rowdies 2-1 over Miami FC. Bonfilio 42nd. Nice jersey. Love it. 50th anniversary. Gorgeous. I'm talking about Tampa Bay, of course, not Miami. Guillen in the 74th.
Everybody at home in Sirius XM is like, what the heck is wrong with him today?
I know. Guillen 74, Arteaga in stoppage time. That was the player that needed to be the guy in that moment for a team that needed it as badly as they did. Not a ton of opportunity in the game. Rowdies out of the basement for a minute. They're 6 points off Pittsburgh. Look, as good as Miami started, and I started tossing the "the" around, you know me.
Don't do it.
They are now below the playoff line.
I told you not to go that route. You and Joe Malfa, man. You guys just.
It was such a shocking departure from last year. These guys, I'm
Yeah,
like, they don't
so
suck.
it was as well for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Everybody at home, the jersey's up. We're flying, okay? The Rowdies are so back. They're not.
This show
They're
is
not.
off the rails.
They're not. They were, I'll put it this way. If I had to pick a team over Lexington and the Rowdies, I'm taking the Rowdies. Now, that's not saying much, but to me, the performance was better. Thought they really dominated the second half, Mike. They were great working outside in. In order for them to find success, they've got to have the width of the field consistently. You have to give Arteaga the ability to run right down through the spine. Also, as you spread yourself wide, this backline has the ability to control the game. That's exactly what went on in this match. Does it concern me that both goals came from set pieces? Absolutely. However, if you are in that locker room or in that organization, all that matters in this is that you got to win. You got one in, what is it now, 12, 13, that said, we have the belief. We know we can do it, and it certainly doesn't hurt that there was a team just dangling a carrot right out there in front of you in the Eastern Conference. This was a massive win, massive, for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And it's not just because they get the W. It's because the relevance in the East. I mean, they are getting to a point, we're getting to a point where it was the point of no return. Now, 6 back, great, game in hand on some teams. There's still a long way to go, but I was very impressed with the width of the field and how they attacked.
All right, Dev. Meanwhile, let's go to the top of the Eastern Conference. Louisville, you and I had the game on Wednesday night, 2-1 win over Rhode Island on ESPN2. It became 12. Now it's 13 because Danny Cruz gave Mark Briggs the business over the weekend. 4-2. You fall behind, and all of a sudden it's like, full Louisville engaged. 13 unbeaten is tied 5th best in championship history to start a season. Rowdies 2019 was 13 as well. 3 points clear of Charleston, but there's a game in hand involved in all that. They won, obviously, both their games this week. Charleston only played on the weekend. Well, look, I don't think either of us sat there on Wednesday and said it was the most explosive game, but it was well managed. And then they sort of get their tails up on the weekend and handle their business against Birmingham. How good, where are we on this Louisville team? If anything, I think the only concern is if they get bored.
Oh, yeah, staying focused, right? Not that I'm with you on that. I think the overall quality of kind of what's the legacy for this team, right? I think that's probably, people talk about, as we do, the record setting, their attack last year, the unbeaten runs, the titles. I can't imagine being in that locker room, Mike, of what is walking in every single year and trying to separate yourself from all of that, right? Danny Cruz as well. Remember his predecessors, John Hackworth and James O'Connor, They have a title. Danny doesn't. And so that's something that's certainly going to loom large over this team. I think the biggest thing for me is, can they stick to the idea that defensively they are going to be as stout as they have been? Now, 6 goals given up in the first 11, got that. Now 3 in the last 2. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. I think for me it's Danny Cruz wanted to change the idea, instead of opening things up, scoring a million goals, of narrowing that margin to defensive exploitation of the opponent, which we've seen. Can you stick to it all season long? I mean, you and I have seen streaks throughout this where it's 5 shutouts and 6 and the team disappears. To me, the reason I say can you stick to it all season long is because of how aggressive this team can be going forward. And I think we saw that against Rhode Island. We certainly saw it against Birmingham. His exact words to us were, I don't want to win 4-2. I don't want to win 5-3. I don't want to win 5-1. Well, the last 2 games you've done that. So not the end of the world at all. I don't think it. To me, the bigger question is, and I wrote all of this down because I hate, Mike, when people go, oh, it's all about this game and that's going to decide it all. But I did a deep dive into the upcoming schedule. And I think the comparison of what the Charleston Battery bring to the table against Louisville is everything here. And here's why. We made a lot out of the winning streak that was the Charleston Battery, but now the fact that they are 9 games unbeaten, okay, they are 8-0-1, just 2 losses on the season overall, and the 1 draw compared to Louisville's 4 makes them sit just 3 points back in this conversation for the Players Shield, okay? August 9th, it's D-Day. It's D-Day because most teams between now and then are playing between 4 and 6 matches. Specifically, Charleston have 5, Louisville have 6, and New Mexico United have 5 as well, I believe. The teams that they are all going to play within that window is going to create, assuming you get results, separation in the top 4, more than likely that we've never seen before. The Charleston Battery, they are going to face, they go at Miami, home Phoenix, at Birmingham, home North Carolina, at New Mexico, home Miami. It's 6 games. It's a lot to understand. You play 3 top 4 teams in those 6 games, okay? And out of those 3 top 4, that includes New Mexico for the Charleston Battery. So there's a distance right there. That's that 6-point swing we talk about, Mike. You're also pushing forward on North Carolina. I don't think Phoenix has an opportunity within this. Louisville have it worse in this stretch. At North Carolina, at Loudoun, at a struggling but turning Colorado Springs, home Tulsa, home North Carolina. To me, that cancels the East out right there for Louisville. Now, New Mexico United have a slim chance on the far side, even with being points back. San Antonio at Pitt, home Battery, at Hartford, at Tulsa. Where I'm going with this, Mike, is that they're playing all the teams around them that are relevant, and they get a chance to play each other. Now, Louisville is not playing New Mexico United, but they're playing everybody else around them. And on August 9th, Louisville is going to host the Charleston Battery. Now, since Ben Pierman has taken over as head coach in the USL Championship, it was Memphis prior to the Charleston Battery. This series is a dead heat between the Charleston Battery and Louisville. 3-2-3 favoring Louisville, okay? We have only seen 1 0-0 game out of those 8 matches. It's also the only time that we saw either team be shut out. 8 games, 24 goals. They light it up. There's cards. There's everything. And what there is also, Mike, is a clear understanding that the home team dominates here. Only 1 win ever has come from the road team. It was earlier this year from Louisville at Charleston. So where I'm going with is, as tight as these margins are, if you handle your business until that point, in theory, Charleston would have beaten New Mexico. Everybody else wins their games fine. And that game right there, to your point of not getting bored, to me, that will be the title decider, which is crazy to think, considering it's early August. But as consistent and as good as they've been anywhere else, I have a hard time in believing otherwise.
Yeah, obviously, no one's going to get eliminated from the title race in that game.
No.
That'll come at the end of September, right?
But
I feel like that's important for people to realize. But once you open up 5, 6, 7 points with a 6-pointer potentially, those 2 teams may have separated, and then that's the game that provides that impetus forward that allows you to dictate the rest of the race.
And again, people think it's crazy, but like right now, okay, Charleston on 28, New Mexico on 22. If you handle your business elsewhere, if Charleston beats New Mexico, that's 9 points clear, which at that point in time, again, in a 30-game season, 9 points clear, you hit that area of like 11 games to go. That's really tight for me, man. I don't like how that is. Anything's possible. I hope it's crazy. I hope it's an absolute melee by everybody going all the way till the end, and that we get 5 teams that can have this conversation about. I don't get bored about talking about the 2, but it is interesting how tight it's been and what could be on August 9th.
All right. Before we go to break, handful of news stories we want to hit. We're going to chat about some of the other games of the weekend in a couple minutes. The stadium in Sacramento is happening. There's going to be a shovel in the ground. This is going down. Opening 2027. Yes, Devin and I have already booked our flights. I am confident CBS will be there. Talon Maples and Zico Bailey both extended at New Mexico. Congrats to both of them. Andy Cabrera was named the championship's player of the month. Dev, 6 goals, 2 assists. Is that sustainable?
Oh, I didn't think you were going to ask me that question.
The way El Paso's opened this thing up, I mean, I don't
The
know that
way
he's
that
going to put up
listen,
those
I
numbers,
will I
but
will
like,
say this: the way they play, you would think it's sustainable.
yeah,
His youth still scares me a little bit, but the confidence might cancel that out. Playing for dad, I mean,
yeah,
dude, like how freaking cool is that, man?
it is.
Player
And
of the
he was
month with
playing.
your dad on the sideline. Like, oh my God. My dad was an actual American football guy, not a real European football guy. But like
Yeah.
my dad standing on the sidelines was one of the coolest things I used to love about playing. Him as a coach?
Mm.
No, my mom as a coach, I would have walked off the field. But yeah,
Uh,
that's neither here nor there. I don't think it's
elsewhere,
sustainable. I hope it is.
okay. Elsewhere, Louisville had already announced that they're going to play Eintracht Frankfurt. They have now set an additional game for Frankfurt in Louisville. It's the first time a Premier League team will ever play in Louisville. Aston Villa and Frankfurt will match up. Meanwhile, Gold Cup, 12 players, 6 countries from the Championship and League One. Maybe you just want to watch the games, but I hope you listen because our boy Tyler Terrens has 8 group stage games for Fox. Congratulations, buddy. Edison Azcona and Noah Dollemeyer both with the Dominican Republic. They got their first Gold Cup goal. That's pretty cool. Before we go to break, also, congrats to Denise Schulte-Brown and Tampa Bay Sun. Sold out Super League final, 5,000 in Tampa, 1-0 extra time win. It's Cecily flew at 100 minutes. Awesome scenes, looked and sounded great. Next year when they play their opener and they ferry the players over to the stadium, they'll need to make a little extra space for that trophy. All right, when we come back, another deep dive into the weekend here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access from a hotel room in Atlanta, from a garage in wherever the hell you are.
What
Florida?
hotel are you at?
Not a good one.
Do you have a bed?
No, it's the Renaissance. It's fine.
Renaissances are great, man. They're
It's
consistent
solid.
enough.
It is solid. Yeah.
I mean, no hot cookies at the desk, but
no, that's a big loss.
you got to fight the battles you can win when you're on the road, Mike. You know
But
this.
the pillows are decent. I'll give that. I mean,
new
these
requests.
are solid.
By the way, solid shout here. New requests on your preferences checking in. I've started to add the extra pillow request, dude.
Yep. Game changer.
Game changer. Okay.
Game changer. All right, let's chat about what happened over the weekend. For one, Dev, I felt like road teams were actually getting the better of opposition early in the year. Turns out that was certainly not the case last week. Home teams, 9 wins out of the 13 games, couple losses, couple draws. Only Orange County, who went to El Paso of all places.
Go figure.
And the Battery over Hartford, which I guess makes a lot more sense. And then there were plenty of upsets here as well. Lexington over New Mexico at home. Tampa Bay at home over Miami. There's some decent results there. Rhode Island, where they're at, that's technically an upset despite being reigning Eastern Conference champ. Indy over Pittsburgh. Vegas 2-0 over Monterey, where they finally sort of get their wheels spinning a little bit under a new interim manager. Anything to add on that whole overarching look at the weekend?
I'm good.
All right, let's dig into it. Let's dig into a couple games. Loudoun defeats Detroit City. Detroit is now 6 winless, 0-3-3. Now the good news for Detroit is it's their first multi-goal game in their last 5 in the league. The bad news is they do lose 3-2. You mentioned Abdelatif Abukora last week. Another couple goals, may I add. Zach Ryan with the ultimate winner. Loudoun came from behind. Detroit equalized. Ultimately, Loudoun wins that 3-2. Been a minute here for Detroit.
Yeah, it's, I almost feel partly responsible, and I can't even believe I'm giving them ammo, but it's fine.
And I'm going to say this real quick. Before you give a stat, you have always been big on quality of victory.
Yeah. You going somewhere with that? It's just, I made so much earlier on this year about the identity of Detroit, Mike, and how they have always found a way to get a goal, found a way to have the character, found a way to get a result. It's the late game dramatics. I was blown away by the fact that they have now given up 12 points from a winning position. That's not them.
No.
I'm really glad that Darren Smith is working out. Unfortunately, it feels like nothing else is. You know, the absence of what went on underneath him. I think you lost the work rate of Maxi Rodriguez. That's a whole nother conversation for Rhode Island. I can't believe that he didn't play against Louisville, but we'll get there. I think this is just about some changeover within players personally and restoring belief for what is the joint longest losing streak, I believe it is, in Detroit City's USL Championship history dating back to 2023. I think they'll be fine. It's a playoff team. I'm not overly concerned. I do want to give Ryan Martin a little credit here. You know, we talk about, coaching so much, Mike. The idea of how you set a team up, but even more so, how you adjust. I pulled some numbers that, to me, just fully exemplify the quality of season that Loudoun are having and what Ryan Martin is doing with those tools. I agree they need more depth. I said 5 pieces last week or 2 weeks before to really make a change within all of this. Riley Bedois, and there's a couple of people tied in this conversation, but he's tied for the most goals off the bench by a substitute. Ben Mines leads the league in assists by his substitutes and goal contributions coming off the bench with 3. Loudoun now have 11 off of the bench. Second best is Louisville. Even if you understand that you have guys that can make a difference with speed and intensity and stuff, to actually see the numbers back it up, to me, is even more impressive about the coaching that is being done in Loudoun, because it's not just the quality of roster. It's the understanding of what the opponent is throwing at you, how well your guys are performing, and when they're not, what changes need to be made in order to go get a result. You literally cannot argue that anyone's doing it better right now, in-game adjustments, than Ryan Martin and Loudoun.
All right, couple other results to make mention of. Tulsa, not Kings, 1-1 draw against Phoenix. Tulsa, 29 shots, 8 on target. It was a tip-in in front of goal, well crossed to Arthur Rogers at 80. Dude, they are LAFC. That jersey is LAFC. I had LAFC yesterday. They are LAFC. It's shocking. Sacramento and San Antonio, 0-0. Not the best team that Sac can start. Lopez unused, but Cicerone off the bench. But still only 7 shots at home. It was a 42-foul bloodbath that reminds you of San Antonio of old. Colorado Springs 1-0 over Oakland. Marco Micheletto, 39th minute, pull into a tie for 9th place despite their poor start. The West, again, looks like a really tight race to the point where it's 3 points first to 6th, and someone is going to sneak into the top 4 like Colorado Springs did and can again, and maybe make their way all the way through the playoff field. Meanwhile, Battery 2, Hartford 1. Let's chat about this one for a sec. Hartford, 1 win through 11, only 6 points. The Bonanza have had enough. Due to the poor play on the pitch, the lack of investment in the squad, minimal acknowledgement of the supporters group by players and coaches, diminished communication between the front office and the supporters group, the Bonanza have decided to watch the match against Charleston in silent protest, they wrote. We will not be singing, drumming, wearing club colors or gear on Saturday. They followed up by announcing that the club had reached out to them and opened up a line of communication. There's a lot to be done. I give them a lot of credit in sort of they've been there thick and thin, man. And it's almost always been thin. It has been a rough go for Hartford Athletic fans, and they keep showing up. And I don't blame them that their patience has worn out, that they're done with it. So,
dude, 100 losses in 6.5 years.
There's enough veterans on that team that underwhelm week after week. Some of it's going to fall on Brendan Burke. You assembled the squad, but some of this is just motivation of professionals. Like that can't keep
fair.
Getting questioned week in and week out.
Well, hang on. I would go a step further and say those questions, not only for the players, but for the staff in the front office, like, Do we think that the guiding light is only Brendan Burke? No, it can't be.
Well,
It has
and
to be everyone involved.
it's a resources question. It's a depth question. I mean, you can go right down the list.
Depth.
There are massive improvements that were made over 3-4 years ago, but it's still not there.
Who's actually getting to make full-blown decisions here?
Good question.
The people you hire, let them do their job. It's the biggest piece of advice I would tell this organization.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
If you want me to get myself fired, I'm happy to do it.
Nah.
But I don't just – I think we spent time on it last week with the owners, and I think that the results speak for themselves in terms of what's going on around that club. And let's be really, really clear. Everybody, the Bonanza regiments involved in that conversation, they are not looking at Brendan Burke and saying, you suck.
Nor should they.
There's a lot more to this. Read between the lines. And I'm done talking about it for now. I don't want to talk about them anymore. Sorry. It's been too much for too long with them. And literally the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That has nothing to do with Brendan Burke. I agree with you on accountability for the players, but
yeah. All right. Meanwhile, Rhode Island, they did get a win over North Carolina. How you rate North Carolina relative to their standing may play a role, but regardless, you'd say this is Rhode Island's best win of the year after the loss to Louisville. Anything to add on that?
I think they have a problem on the attacking side of the ball, and I have no clue what is going on with Maxi Rodriguez. And the reason I say that is the only justification that I see here for a player that was deemed fit, that played in the game against Louisville, played on the weekend, is that you are hiding, some sort of injury. I respect that, but by not telling us that, we have no idea. B, you felt like you had no chance in Louisville and that you could only beat North Carolina. I don't believe that either, knowing Cano Smith and knowing the confidence. So I don't understand why you don't start Maxi Rodriguez, the high-ticket item that you go get in the offseason. I don't understand why every single time I watch this team, to be fair, Mike, even dating back to last year, I've never believed in the idea that J.J. Williams and Albert Dekor were going to work off of each other. I've never seen it. That's not a knock on either individual player and their talent. That's to say that when I watch them move together, I don't see it. It's that simple. And I think they have a real attacking problem, and I don't believe it was solved against North Carolina. It's that simple for me. Truly.
Yep.
Great. Get guys healthy, fine. Those two got to learn to work together up top. Albert Dekor scored his second goal of the year. Again, all due respect to him, 2023 was a flash in the pan, and I hope he scores another 20 goals, but he's not going to. So you have to figure out another way to do that. And with Maxi Rodriguez not on the field, I don't think you have a way around it. You have to get him on the field.
All right, when we come back, Lexington, their first win in 14 games. Joe Hafferty has a pretty awesome sort of development path, not the least of which with Terry Boss at Oregon State before rejoining him here. Did great things last year at Las Vegas. And we're going to chat about all of it with him on the other side of the break here on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to USL All Access on this beautiful Tuesday evening, June 17th, the year of Michael Watts 2025. It's actually Michael Raymond Watts, as we know, child a couple weeks ago. He's out walking the cat. You know how this show goes. So I decided to bring a friend in as promised. I know you want to hear from him, not me. We got Joe Hafferty, defender from Lexington SC. He's got quite the interesting resume. I'll give you the brief one. Oregon State for a couple of years. Terry Boss recruited him there. You're going to hear that name a couple of times within this interview. Drafted by Inter Miami, rights picked up by Seattle, gets loaned to what I am going to continue to call S2. Tacoma Defiance does not exist. It's only S2. Then to Austin, then to Vegas, now with Lexington. And I always try and find a way to give these people the best superlative possible. I have never seen a better sentence in someone's bio ever. Credit to the writers at Oregon State. In 2019, played every minute of the season with the exception of the time he missed due to red card suspension. A man after my own heart. Joe Hafferty, how the hell are we, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Dude, did you slide that in to like the PR staff, the SID, and say, hey, you got to get this in there for me? That is amazing. I love that. That's the best stat I've ever heard. So good. Joe, let's start with this. I've always been intrigued by your path. Never had the opportunity to chat to you about it. And to be fair, thinking of the database of players that I've had the unique pleasure of covering, unique is something of a term that kind of popped out to me. Someone who experienced the MLS Academy system, which back then was very closed off. It's not as open as we see now, right? The DA was in an interesting spot for sure. Then you get a chance to go the collegiate route. You get drafted by an MLS team whose rights then go back to basically your homegrown rights to your own team in Seattle Sounders. It doesn't take place with the first team. You rotate between 1, 2, get an opportunity, I should say, between prior to going to college and after, work with 3 different managers there. We'll get to that. Then you go to an MLS Next Pro team, then into a championship team, which was basically an upstart, and a very similar situation now. How would you, if you had to put a synopsis on kind of what your journey has been, probably the last year before college until now, it is a very winding path. I have the utmost appreciation for. How would you describe it?
I've truly been grateful for all my experiences everywhere I've been. I've learned something new. Yeah, but you have an idea of what's going to happen, and you just sometimes got to have faith that it's going to work out and go with the flow, take each situation for what it is. But yeah, like I said, I've just been really grateful for the journey I've been on. I've been to lived in a lot of cool different places, and I've learned from a lot of different coaches. I've been a part of different organizations, and so far I'm just happy to still be playing and learning every day.
Good stuff. Let's talk about the last, we'll call it 2.5 years or so. So in 2023, you are with Austin 2. Dennis Sanchez at this point in time is the head coach of that MLS Next Pro squad. You guys win the title. I remember covering teams that season, seeing what it was like. Awesome, great. The year ends. As a player, you're probably thinking about what the next move is with Austin, or at least that's the hope, right? That's not how this plays out. Jose Bautista buys Las Vegas Lights. We've told that story before. Dennis Sanchez is hired. The runway is very small for him to bring in what is going to be his inaugural group of players, and you follow him there. Tell me why, and why that project interests you so much to leave a title-winning team in one kind of stratosphere and follow Dennis to Vegas.
Yeah, I guess to start at Austin, me and Dennis go way back. You talked about, growing up, they had ODP. I don't know what it's called now, but he was one of my coaches back when I was, U14. So I knew him, and I trusted him. He gave me a call after that season with Austin and said, "Hey, look, I'm getting a head coaching position in the USL. You want to come be a part of it?" And I was like, "Of course." And I heard Jose Bautista was coming in. He was gonna invest into the group and change things up. So I find myself being a part of these projects, not projects, but new beginnings. And it was just an opportunity that I was super excited to be a part of. Playing for Dennis, I think he's a great guy, a great manager, very knowledgeable coach. So there was no hesitation. Just seemed like the right thing to do.
So 2024 ends with the second biggest point turnaround for an organization in the history of the championship. That was Las Vegas Lights from 2023 results into 2024. The team was not only crazy different in terms of results, finishing fourth that year on 50 points, earning a home playoff spot. Stylistically, plain and simple, there was an identity, something that had been lacking since the inaugural year. Dennis gets the opportunity to go to New Mexico United. He goes there. You don't stay. You don't follow him. You get an opportunity with Lexington. I'll borrow your terminology earlier, one of these projects. And to be fair, it is a project. So you get someone like the architect Sam Dorr, started San Antonio, involved, of course, with Phoenix Rising and their rebrand, and then Tulsa prior to his arrival in Lexington. Terry Boss, your former manager at Oregon State, he gets the nod at the helm. You decide to go there. Describe that decision-making process, which I'm sure some areas were eerily similar and also vastly different in this time coming to Lexington.
Yeah, that was, it was an interesting. Every time a season ends, it's an interesting part of your life. You're not sure what's going to happen, but Terry Boss called me and he said, "Hey, look, Lexington is going to be a part of the USL Championship." He spoke with the owners. The owners are, they're doing the right thing. They're all on board. They're bringing in great talent. Like you said, Sam knows how to build a team. And I knew playing for Terry that he was going to, increase or continue to develop people and help me up my game. So again, it just seemed like all the stars aligned and it was the right decision to make.
Speaking with Joe Hafferty, defender from Lexington SC, currently sit 12th in the Western Conference of the USL Championship, though certainly not that far off the playoff line given the congestion that is the Wild Wild West. He will take on Colorado Springs this coming Friday. We'll get to that game in a minute. I want to stay on you now as an individual, your style of game. I expressed my admiration to you privately before we came on air. Let's pull the curtain back a little bit. There is an aggressive style to your game, regardless of system that you are put in, regardless of personnel that is around you. Build 3, build 4, sit 3 deep, counter on high pressing situations. You are always on the half turn, forward thinking, clean on the ball. And that's kind of how I've seen you since college. And while I see areas of your game developing, you listed on that bio that I referenced earlier that, Messi and Yedlin were kind of your inspirations for your game. Who else do you pull from, whether in this league, in this country, or worldwide, that has an influence on your game and your development?
I think it's always changing. As just watching games going on, try to watch outside backs, center backs. I can't say specifically, I just know who I enjoy watching. Nuno Mendes had an outstanding season. That's like the best of the best right now. You want to think of like distributors, Matt Hummels. There's different places you just watch at the top level that you try to continue to learn from, maybe take on pieces of information. But I think a lot of it I attribute to my coaches that I've had and them teaching me, certain details and specifics about the game that can really simplify it, make it easy. So
let's talk about one of those coaches. Had the pleasure, for as small of a window as it was, of stepping onto the field with Terry back in the early Seattle Sounders days before it jumped into MLS. And, when he and I I got an opportunity to create that relationship a little bit further. We talked about his journey, the influences that you talk about on yours, how it was had on him. It's not often that I get a chance to talk to a player who played for a coach at both the collegiate level and then at the pro level, yet alone in what I call a startup, right, for Lexington. What's the biggest difference between Terry Boss as a manager that you experienced at the amateur level compared to what it's like in USL Championship Pro play?
I wouldn't say that there's a massive difference. Terry. I think Terry is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. Not even coaches, just hardest working people. He cares so deeply. He wants the most out of people, and he knows how to develop a winning culture. Yeah, I think, I wouldn't say that there's a big difference. Just continuing to get the whole team on the same page and, pushing for those results is just something that potentially is going to take time, but he knows how to get the most out of people. He wants to develop smart, hardworking players, and I think we're on the right path.
Within your resume, I had alluded to some of it earlier. There's the success with Vegas last year. I view it as success personally. The top 4 finish, right? The run to the Western Conference Final. There is the title with Austin 2 the year prior. There is the development of one's games, but also the great runs that Oregon State had while you were there. Certainly some of the guys that were involved in that, how that continued after the fact. And an opportunity to, what I view at least as an opportunity to kind of shape the narrative of your future when it comes to these standalones. A chance for a rebirth in Vegas, a chance, that's the organization, a chance for you to create your own story within Lexington's history and USL Championship, their first year ever. How do you view success?
I think constant improvement is got to be the best gauge on success. We talk about you're only as good as your last performance. So no matter what's happened in the past, where we've been, what other people have done, we have extremely successful people on our team, extremely talented people on our team. But if we're not constantly improving, trying to get better each day, we're not successful. And I think the really cool part about this group is that we can put aside whatever you want to call it, some of the misfortune, and we can focus that like we are having some growth in our game. We are coming together. We're creating this belief. We're developing this identity. Maybe it's taking a little bit more time, but there is a belief within the group that we're moving in the right direction, no matter how hard it's going to be or how long it takes. I think that is like the ultimate success for us.
All right, Joe, let's talk about the match on the weekend. You guys, I talked about how tight-knit that grouping is in the Western Conference. I'm looking at the table right there. It's not far off, right? As fast as this thing started, even though it cooled off, it heats up that quick. You guys are currently 4 points off the playoff line. There are some midweek fixtures, but a chance to really get much closer in that conversation for a playoff berth. Colorado Springs, I see a lot of similarities in the sense of injuries. You guys have experienced a ton of those within your group, trying to find rhythm, right? Having bodies within that, first-year project or not, is always important, and neither one of you have really had that, although it seems to be turning a corner. You're both coming off positive results. Give people an idea of what this feels like going into the game on the weekend. You also get to host them, so you're not traveling. You'll be at home in the friendly confines and a chance to knock off last year's title winner.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement around it. We know that beating New Mexico was great, but there's a lot of work to be done. And as you talked about, it's very tight. Crazy things can happen in this league. But being at home is something huge. We look out and we see people in the stands. They're still rooting, cheering us on. And so we're going to keep fighting, trying to find a way. And going into this game, we're just going to, like I said, continue to build that belief, compete, and try to get 3 points.
After that massive win on the weekend, did you and Dennis have a bet? Did you make him buy you dinner after the result?
No. Dennis is a great guy. He wasn't too happy, but he's a great guy.
Fair play. All right, Brody. I appreciate all of your time, man. Thank you for letting us see what it's like a day in the life, your journey that has been. Wish you nothing but success moving forward, and good luck on Friday against Colorado Springs.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome, bud. There goes Joe Hafferty, defender from Lexington SC. One of the great things about Joe, doesn't really matter where he lines up on the field. He always seems to have an impact on the game. And while he maybe doesn't light up the Golden Boot race, he only drops bombs. Go check out the highlight reel. Trust me. They will take on Colorado Springs, 7 o'clock Eastern time, ESPN2. I'll be on the call with Josh Eastern this coming Friday. Stick around. When we get back, we're going to talk about a couple of things, including what does travel look like, what does Mike Watts' laundry list look like, and what did we really learn in Week 16 of the USL Championship. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
All right, we're back on USL All Access. Miss a part of that Joe Hafferty interview, the Lexington SC defender. It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page, or as always on the SiriusXM app. All right, Dev, let's chat about the games coming up this week. Miami and the Battery will kick it off on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time over on the Plus. Birmingham, Sacramento. Briggs Bowl, the Briggs Gigs Derby. These are yours. The Duel of the Fates, Culinary Quest, as in tacos versus barbecue,
Yeah.
or who gives a you-know-what, we don't need a name for everything derby?
Oh, I'm leaning with that, baby. Let's get that on a shirt immediately.
All right. There's nothing geographic about it, but Mark Briggs is going to see his former team, 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. All right. On the weekend, Lexington, Colorado Springs, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Friday, it is on ESPN2. You're calling that?
Calling it.
All right.
Do you want me to call the result? Do you actually want me to just show up and call the match? You can pick. You have, as they say in the industry, carte blanche.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, Colorado Springs is getting healthy. That's what this comes down to. Colorado Springs has been an absolute mess of an organization when it comes to health of their players. It is neither their fault nor wrongdoing of any sorts in terms of trying to rehab them. They're getting healthy. I think defensively, you are finally starting to see them really control a game. The back line is doing a good job with the ball at their feet. They brought in Tyler Clegg, who did not make it earlier this season with Sacramento. Portland signee James Madison kid, good talent. Don't necessarily know at this point in time if he's the answer. Midfield is doing well. Front line has certainly been interesting. They've rotated Fontana, Yosuke, Tejada into that false nine position. But every game that I've seen over the past probably 4 weeks, Mike, I've seen health, and I've seen a team that has control. Tell me that is not James Chambers in its nutshell. He wants to be able to stretch for sure. They want to be able to defend, but it all comes down to their ability to control with the ball. Lexington has to be better on the back line. They have to limit transitional moments, and their organization has to be better. That's plain and simple. In order to get a result, they have to communicate and then do it again and do it again a million times over. It does benefit them. They're coming off a win and the fact that they're at home.
If you want to take the 5-finger discount, not pay for cable, on Golazo, it's North Carolina and Louisville at the same time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Friday night. On Saturday, Dev, pick a game here for me. Probably Battery Phoenix on ESPN Plus.
Oh, that's a good one, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually curious to see the New Mexico San Antonio game, to be fair. San Antonio's result on the weekend against New Mexico United coming off a loss, uncharted territory. I don't think you're wrong in either. Also, the one that I picked, you'd have to stay up past your bedtime, and I really need some sleep. So
Yeah. All right. Did you learn anything this week?
I did, and we didn't even announce it. I learned so much. I did not know you did laundry.
I do the laundry.
Mike's on the road. He's in a hotel room. The second that we're done with this, my man's taking off. Pocket full of quarters, heart full of hope, and a bucket full of suds to go take care of the laundry. Who knew? I figured the wife took care of that for you.
Yeah.
I do my laundry, as you know, but
yeah,
I also do everybody else's, which is ironic. So
yeah,
like a single mother.
Yeah. And I learned I had a lot of vicarious joy watching Tyler call those Gold Cup games. I mentioned it earlier. Like you, me, and Tyler, Joe Malfa, Josh Eastern, Ricky Lopez-Espin, Jordan Angeli, Jill Lloyden, we all came up through this Vista NEP, Remy. Like, watching people take that step is really cool. Tyler, congratulations, man. I hope this is your step right into the World Cup next year. All right, for Devin, Emmett, Mike, we'll talk to you again next Tuesday. So long, everybody.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.